I call this a double drop shadow effect. I got this idea and sort of discovered it when I was working on this client project, and I just thought it would be a cool video to share with you all. So if you want to learn how to make these and so that you can use this on your project, then watch the whole video. Now the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna create a new Fusion component. I already have one right here, and I'm just gonna go in it, and this is how it looks when it's empty. We're gonna add a background on to create a background, and we're gonna make these transparent. Now the next step is to go to here where it says Fusion and then import an SVG file. I already have an SVG file that I shared of a phone that you can use for this particular case, and all you have to do is go and check the video that I'm linking in the description. It's a previous video, so you can just grab the file from there. Now when you import an SVG file, it usually is going to look like this, and it looks a little bit crazy. So the reason for that is that every layer and every different color has a different mask when you import as an SVG inside DaVinci Resolve, well, inside Fusion. So what we have to do is first of all find the one that's going to be our main screen. So it's going to be this one, and we can change the color. That way we can just see what's going to go in there. After we have that, we can actually ungroup these for a little bit because we're going to be using these masks and connect these to where our media in is gonna come from. For that, we're gonna add another background, and I'm gonna make this transparent for now, and I'm gonna connect these to our phone that we have here. Now it's important that this one is coming from the foreground, so make sure that's correct there. And if you don't want to connect a background, you can connect your media in directly from there. So I'm just gonna go and grab this image right here. It was supposed to be a temporary logo, but I've already had it for like 2 years. Okay, so we have that there right now. And we're not seeing anything on screen because right now we're still seeing these right here. We can press 2 right here and connect these to our main frame and then create a new merge node so that we can see everything. By default, it looks like that. And one of the things that we're gonna do right away is we're gonna go back to the phone section. And right now the edges are really close to the edge of the actual layout, let's say. And we want to make these smaller using the size right here, because when we add the drop shadows here, that's going to be affected, and the drop shadow is going to be cut off if we don't have a little bit of padding or blank space in here. So that's the correct size, because then we can later on adjust the size again. Same goes for here. You can actually adjust these by going here, so that we have the merge node be a little bit smaller so that we can see the whole phone in camera. Now the thing here is that when we make these bigger, whatever media you have right now, it looks like it's just over it, right? For that, what we want to do is we're going to grab this same mask that we have here, and you can either connect it directly, but sometimes it can get messed up. So we're going to just copy this here and connect this to the merge node. And as you have seen already, you can see how the mask is not completely in the correct size right now, because this background is different right here than the main background that's from the phone right here, the resolution of it basically. So it's an easy fix because this shape is pretty straightforward. So we're just gonna go here to selecting this mask and adjust the size of this until it reaches the edges of the phone, and you can hold Ctrl and zoom in if you want. That way it's a little bit more accurate. Now it looks like whatever we have connected here to media in is actually inside. And to adjust the size of that, you can either add another transform node right here if you want to leave this at 1, or you can directly use this merge node as the size controls basically. And if you want, you can rename these and connect and make these like media controls or something like that, just so that you can know what's happening there. Now that we have that there, we can go ahead and press Ctrl and spacebar, and we're gonna add a drop shadow. That's gonna be the first drop shadow. The effect is called double drop shadow. So we're gonna be using 2. Now here, this drop shadow, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna decrease the distance, and then we're gonna lower the blur, and you can also make these a little bit stronger, so it's a little bit more solid. And then we're gonna bring these even closer like that. And you probably wanna leave the blur maybe at 0 if you really want, but you can just leave it a little bit, 0.04 maybe, so it's not completely sharp. You can change the color here so that you can see the difference basically, or the space it's occupying, and you can do these changes to whatever color you want. Now it's a little bit transparent for now, so we want to make these completely solid. So we're just gonna make this shadow strength be 1. That way it's gonna be completely solid. What we're gonna animate in a little bit is the drop angle,
And that's what's gonna give the illusion of the phone sort of moving in a 3D space. I'm gonna leave these, we're gonna start these at like 145 maybe, like that. And we're gonna create a new keyframe right here for 145. We're gonna go to frame 48 and we're gonna bring this to the other side, and you have to make sure that you don't go over because then it's not gonna look that great. So it's gonna be probably around 30-40 again. That way the angle looks like it's coming from this side to this side. If we play this, we can see that it's moving a little bit. Now, the whole thing is a little bit too stiff for now. So we're gonna add a second drop shadow, and for that we're just gonna copy and paste this one, and we're gonna adjust the shadow strength of this one and also add a little bit more blur to these. Now, the problem with blurs is that when you're working with a blurry drop shadow, it's not gonna look well unless you have these in color, like in black. So you have to always keep it in black. But I'm gonna make another short video showing you how you can work around this if you want your little drop shadow to have a different color and so that it maintains its blurriness. Okay, now we have both of those moving at the same time and it looks a little bit better, right? If you want, you can go to the spline tool right here and add a little bit of a curve by selecting everything with Ctrl A and then press F, and then we can see that the phone moves. So right now it looks like there's a phone right there and the light is moving. If we want to play around with the movement a little bit more, we can add a transform here, and we're gonna add a normal transform first, and we're gonna be playing with the angle. We're gonna move these like that to like 6 maybe. So at frame 0, it's gonna be there. And then at frame 48, we're gonna bring this to the other side. Now if we look at these, you see how, yep, you're already seeing it. It looks a lot better, I would say. It really does play with the effect and it looks great. I really love how these look. Now, in the example that I showed you, there was a sort of like a bouncing or floating effect. If you want, you can add another transform node and make sure it's the second one, because this one allows us to adjust the position Y values individually. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna right click and we're gonna modify these with a shake. If you wanna keep these randomly, you can use a shake, but if you wanna keep the control of it, then you can create individual keyframes. Let me show you how it works with the shake. Since we're already working with only with the Y path, we don't have to do that. So we can just keep this lock right there. So right now it looks like it's floating a little bit, so it looks pretty good, I would say. And you can make these even smoother like that. And that's how it works with the shake. If you were to do it with a keyframe, all you have to do is go and add a transform, the second transform, and then create a keyframe for the Y value right here. Go to frame, whatever frame you want it to be, let's say 24. Hold Ctrl and move this a little bit up. Then we're gonna go to a spline tool. You can fit everything here on screen. Select everything, and then we're gonna add a ping pong. Now this is gonna be a little bit too linear, so if you want, you can select everything and press S, and that's gonna give it a little bit of a bounciness effect. That way you can keep control of it. Now if we want the phone to keep doing that same movement, we can just add basically a similar effect here. So selecting all of those 3 previous nodes, select everything, and then we're gonna set these to ping pong, and then we can see how it continuously has that sort of like going from side to side. In this case, we're just gonna leave it like that for now, just because of the example. Now, one thing you gotta also pay attention to is that right now we have seen that this disappears right after you play one. So you have to make sure that your media, by default, sometimes it stays at 0, 0. So if you're using an image, you're just gonna have to make this bigger like that, and that way it's gonna be not disappearing basically. Now, if you're working with a video, let me just add a video and we'll see how it looks. So let's get rid of that there, and we're gonna add this video right here. Let's play that video, and here you can actually just adjust the positioning of this video like that. And now you can see both effects working, one inside the other one. Okay, so yeah, that is pretty much how this effect works. Now, the cool thing about this effect is that if you don't want to use a phone, for example, you can use any shape that you want. That probably would work best if you have some sort of like flat shape. If the shape that you have is a little bit more organic, it's probably not gonna look that great, but it's all a matter of just playing around and testing things out. Now, if you want to use a text node or a shape node, anything else, all you have to do is go and get rid of the phone that we have here. And we're going to add this text node and connect it there. And then just write tutorial. Then we can make these a lot bigger. But if you're making these a lot bigger like that, you can see that we have previously adjusted this merge node so that the phone was smaller. So if you want to make things bigger, you're going to have to resize this to normal size again. And then we can just bring this down there and see how that looks. And it looks pretty good. Now, when you're working with text, to have this sort of isometric look be consistent, you don't want the drop shadow to have this space between the letters. So you have to adjust the distance of your drop shadow a little bit, so that it's a little bit closer to the text that you have right here. But you can play around with it and see what looks best in your particular case. So yeah, it's a matter of like personal preference basically. I hope that you found this video helpful, and hopefully you're able to put it into practice and use it on some of your projects. Now that is it for this video. I'll see you in the next one here in SUALVI.